Played high school football and learned a lot from that. A lot about discipline and teamwork and goal setting. Learned a lot from losing. We weren't a very good football team, and I always think back to all those losses and how that shaped me. I think that's a thing that people probably undervalue a lot in life.
Kill Complacency, a podcast that inspires growth and intentionality and helps you overcome your greatest obstacles.
Good friend of mine, got a lot closer this year doing some miles together running, but I've respected Trey for a long time. He's got a coffee shop in town that's probably the place for fellowship and coffee and community. And I remember when he started that. Crazy story, he'll get into it, but also Trey's a super strong runner and has set all kinds of PRs this year. And so I've actually shadowed him a bit doing some runs. So Trey, could you kind of tell us maybe your backstory, how you and Mallory started Hoboken COFFE, and what went into all that?
Yeah, and thanks for having me. It's always an honor when someone wants to sit down with you and hear your story and, puts a microphone in front of your face. It's a neat thing, so I appreciate the opportunity. I grew up in Bethany, Oklahoma, and grew up in a Christian home and grew up in the church. Almost every time the door was open, it seemed like my mom and dad had me there. That was a great blessing. And went to public school and high school in Putnam City Public Schools. Had a lot of good friends and experiences there. Played high school football and learned a lot from that. A lot about discipline and teamwork and goal setting. Learned a lot from losing. We weren't a very good football team, and I always think back to all those losses and how that shaped me. I think that's a thing that people probably undervalue a lot in life is, winning in team sports is great, but how you manage losses, especially at high school level, big high school football where you're putting in a lot of work and then there's just very little reward sometimes. I think the reward I've taken from that has just been everything I've learned from that as an adult. So went to Oklahoma State in college, kind of wanting to get away from home a little bit. It was about an hour from home. And, that season of life, in hindsight, was a season of sin and kind of rejecting some of that Christian upbringing that I had. So I look back on that season with a lot of regret, but that was the season where I met my wife, Mallory. And so that was God just working out something for my good and his glory that I couldn't have anticipated. So I met her the fourth year of my time at Oklahoma State. And our love story is a big part of our business journey. But we met in the fall of 2007. We were engaged by the spring of 2008, and we were married by the summer of 2008. And it was actually Mallory that wanted to do a coffee business. Yep. So I was studying finance, and I had pretty much no entrepreneurial aspirations. Like I had interned with some reinsurance companies, which is what it sounds like. It's insurance for insurance. Really boring, but it appeared that it was going to pay a lot.
Can you imagine your life doing that now?
No. Mallory makes fun of me all the time. She says I'd be living the most boring life, living in a
whole new friend peer group. It'd look different.
So, praise the Lord that didn't happen. So, she had this goal and this dream to do a coffee business since the time she was about 16. So when I met her, she was maybe 20. So she had been, dreaming and planning in ways that, a teenager might, writing things down. I think she had like a board, like a pinup board with like magazine clippings and things pinned on it. And, but she was probably further along in the whole planning and dreaming phase than I was at anything, as far as my career went. And so I noticed that, and also remember thinking like, a coffee house for a career is a very idealistic lifestyle. A lot of people probably want to do something along those lines. But coffee house I would say was like, peak dreaming for a career. But I also thought, man, she was a 1 and 2 mile state champion at Guthrie High School. She was valedictorian. Like, she was a go-getter. Like, I could tell she doesn't just say things willy-nilly and then not follow through. So I thought, she's serious about this and sounds a lot better than insurance. And let's and we're gonna. I'm in love and we're gonna get married. So let's do it. So after marriage in the summer of 2008, we moved to Eugene, Oregon, both because her dad had tragically died in a motorcycle accident a few months before we got married. Because we wanted to get away from kind of that grief that was really centered right in Guthrie when that happened. And then we picked a destination where there was a very well-established coffee culture. And so the Pacific Northwest, we landed in Eugene. We just loaded up a truck and drove out to Portland. We thought we might live in Portland. It was a small Ford Ranger with a single cab, and we put a camper shell on the back and a bike rack on it. And somehow we fit everything we needed to take for a year. We planned to go for a year. We had no plans to stay indefinitely. It was like, we'll go for a year, we'll actually live there, and then we'll come back and start our business. And so we loaded up this little Ford Ranger, and but we didn't know where we were going. We literally pulled into Portland in the summertime, and it was overwhelming, to say the least. It was hot. Sure. There was a heat wave that week when we pulled in. It was 100 degrees in Portland, which happens, but it's like, maybe once a year for a couple days. There's not air conditionings in sure. every apartment and business in Portland, and people were cranky. They also have different hygiene standards in cities like Portland, and so it smelled funny. And I never had a panic attack in my life. I don't think I had one that day, but I was really close. I said, we got to get out of here. We were there for a few hours walking around kind of thinking, well, maybe we should check on this apartment building, or what about this or that? We got in the car, and Eugene was kind of a backup.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll like Eugene. It was a college town. There was a running culture there.
Over the years, I have been coached by countless mentors, and now I want to offer that to you as well. How? By Marty Hofmann's Life Coaching. This will be a 6-week program in which I will guarantee you will develop a more growth mindset. We will set goals and learn about the importance of the processes and habits behind those goals. I will also help you see your story differently as things happening for you, not to you. We will also be discussing your future self and give you clarity on who that is and what it looks like. For more information, please follow the link below or hop on martyhoffman.com and follow the coaching link.
So we drove to Eugene. Even in those heat waves in Oregon, it cools off in the at night. And so when we pulled in, we came in over the Willamette River, over this bridge. It was night, and it was probably 60 degrees all of a sudden. And it was just like God was saying, like, we were like, yes, this is it. This is the place. And so we got a hotel room for a few weeks until we found an apartment, and then we found some jobs. The goal was to find jobs working in coffee.
Sure.
Found a house church, which was an incredible part of our story. I could go on for hours about how incredible that season was, because of there was a church plant from Indiana there that we stumbled upon by God's grace. Yep. Very few Christians. Lane County, Oregon, where Eugene is one of the least church counties in the country. We didn't know that. So we visited a few churches. It was kind of like, I don't know about this place. But this house church was on fire for, God's word. We went through one verse at a time, studying the book of John. Changed my life as far as my approach to the word and to what church is, what discipleship is.
It's interesting, if I can hop in here. You had grown up in the church, but you would kind of put it up on the wall to reevaluate it. And I don't know when God started to engage you again, but
when I met my wife,
okay. But I know pivotal points in our life when there's a lot of change, we're really desirous of community. And I know more of your story because I've heard this before, but you guys needed community, and that was how God really taught you John. was this to fulfill your desire for people.
Absolutely.
So it's neat to see how God uses different things.
Yep.
Fast forward a little bit. You're in Eugene. You're figuring it out. Tell the guest about the bike ride, because when I first heard about Hoboken, Trey and Mallory, I'd heard about this couple that had biked from Oregon to Guthrie, and I didn't know you. I thought you guys were from Oregon.
Right.
So tell us about that a little bit.
That was a really, to use a word that's probably overused, it was an epic trip and opportunity and a total, I can't believe we pulled it off, honestly. So I worked at this cafe kind of on the outside of town. Like Eugene is this very like insulated downtown community where like there's no fast food restaurants right downtown. There's no gas stations right in this core area. And so things like Walmart and there was this like road that went out of town that was much more like, Edmond. And that was the only place I could find a job. Nobody wanted to hire me because I had no coffee skills. So I finally got a job at this. It was also the recession. It was 2010. It was hard to get any job. So I got this job kind of out on the skirts of town, but I rode my bike because there's bike paths everywhere. Biking was this big part of life in Eugene, which was really cool. And I rode down this bike trail to work, a paved bike trail every day. And there was this metal building that said Bike Friday on it. And I probably rode by it for months before I ever finally go, I wonder what that is. And so I went in one day, and they were a bike manufacturing company, and they built their own bike frames, steel bike frames, but their niche was folding bikes. And the niche within that folding bike community, some of it is like big city, if you live in New York and you want to ride from your apartment to the subway stop, and then you can fold your bike up, throw it on the subway, hop out. That's kind of one niche of folding bikes, but theirs was bike tours. And because a lot of bike tours begin maybe in China, or maybe you want to tour Africa or Europe, you got to fly your bike to those continents. And at the time, it was in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was really expensive and complicated to fly a bike. So they built these touring bikes that folded up. The whole thing was designed around a Samsonite suitcase, hard shell suitcase. And it folded up and fit perfectly into this suitcase, which also doubled as a bike trailer. So there was a air hose coupling that attached to your bike, and you pulled this Samsonite suitcase with wheels as a trailer. So you, in theory, could leave your house with your duffel bag in your trailer, ride to the airport, fold it all up, throw your duffel bag on your shoulder, fly off to wherever, and then get out, and you'd never need a car. That was kind of the idea. And then you could do your bike tour. So I realized that bike touring was a thing. It's like people actually ride their bikes across the country or the state. That's insane. So I picked up a book. This was before social media was you could just look up any niche you wanted to and see every post and picture and video and how it's all done. Got a book called Bicycle Touring the Pacific Northwest, and it was basically a guide of like how to go from Washington State all the way down to Southern California along the Pacific coast, which looked totally beautiful. And I was like, Mallory, we got to do this. Like, I don't know how, but we got to buy these bikes and we got to do this. This looks epic. And so then it kind of transformed into, well, what if we, because we had set aside this time just a year, we knew we were going home and we drove out with very little. Mm-hmm. Like, what if we just figured out a way to ride our bikes home? That would be cool. And so we did. We figured that out. We drove the truck home with all of our things in it. We rode a train from Oklahoma City back to Eugene. So it went from Oklahoma City to Fort Worth to San Antonio, and then it went west to LA, and then up north. And if you ever have the opportunity to ride the train really far, it's well worth it.
Yeah, I've done Amtrak once.
Yeah, so cool.
Relaxing.
Exhausting. Yeah. But, so I was on the train for 7 days. So, and I didn't.
Yeah, when I did it was 12 hours. And I was like, through the night, I was like, this is way better than an airplane, way better than a bus.
Yes. So we didn't get a sleeper car because they were expensive. So I slept like this in a chair for 7 nights.
That would be rough.
That was exhausting, but very cool. So we rode the train back to Oregon, lived in our little apartment with less than we came out with, which wasn't much. And then we started packing for this bike tour. And we actually met 3 people that, oddly enough, were touring from Eugene to Boston with a stop in Tulsa, Oklahoma on the way. And one of the people in that group that we met was a bike mechanic. And I thought, Mallory, there's a bike mechanic. They're leaving like the same week that we're leaving, and they're going to Oklahoma. We have to figure out how to ride with them. And so instead of going down the coast, which was our original plan with just the 2 of us, this group wanted to hit up Yellowstone National Park and then go south through Colorado and then into Kansas and Oklahoma. So that's what we did. We rode about 60 to 80 miles a day. I think our longest day was like 100 miles. We camped outside for the first week or so. There was national forest everywhere, and you literally just like pull off the side of the road, walk back into the woods about 10, 20 yards and set up a tent. That was really cool. And then by the time you get into, Colorado and Kansas, Wyoming, you're looking at like pulling into towns like Guthrie. You just kind of go from town to town. And we would pull into these towns a lot like Guthrie, and you stand out like a sore thumb. There's 5 of you. You've got these big bikes. People are like, what are you doing? And
you just throw up a tent.
And then
park.
Yep. Can we park or can we camp in the tent? And they'd say yes or no. And a lot of times they'd just say, why don't you come to my house, camp in the backyard? Or sometimes they'd let you stay in the basement and they'd cook you meals. And then there was also warm showers, which was akin to couch surfing, but just for the cycling community. So it was considered much safer, little niche of couch surfing, which was new and neat for people that were like dirtbag, like, wanting to see different countries, but like, you don't want to invite a serial killer into your home.
Sure.
But the bike community is a little smaller and a little more close knit. And so that it was warm showers, and we used warm showers to meet up with people that were on the list of people that like, if you're touring, like you can stay here. So that was cool. Took about 6 weeks, got really hot when we got into Kansas because we left early July, finished around mid-August. Couldn't wait to be done. It was so hot and I was just over it. But it was incredible.
If you want to wear a billboard of a message of kill complacency or live intentionally, then check out my merch store. It's www.mindsetshop.com. Mindset is with an X, so it's MINDXET shop, SHOP.com. Mindsetshop.com. So you get to Guthrie. We got to speed up, Trey.
Yeah.
Well, you get to Guthrie and you guys convert an old garage to your coffee shop.
Yep.
Tell me about the first year.
Oh, just grueling. So hard. we opened with a 6-week-old baby. So the baby came with us every day. We put her behind the bar in a little car seat carrier, and she slept through, most of the morning. But we were like walking zombies for those first 4, 5, 6 months. I don't think we got our first employee until around month 6 or 8. And I mean, that helped, but just a little. I mean,
just a huge learning curve. Like Mallory had done the coffee thing, but you hadn't?
I got a little bit of experience while we were in Oregon, but basically I learned what I didn't want to do with our own business more so than like the craft of specialty coffee. Sure. I didn't work in a specialty coffee place. So I kind of had to learn that myself and from what Mallory knew. Didn't know how to roast coffee. We bought this $16,000 brand new, beautiful coffee roaster. Had no idea how to run it. Just kind of like took one seminar and then winged it from there. So yeah, that first year, really, really hard. But, we were 27 and you got a lot of energy when you're 27 and you got a dream and you're chasing it and you do whatever. We did whatever it took. It didn't matter.
Yeah. Was there anything that like inspired Mallory in regards to the coffee shop?
I think it was a little coffee shop in Breckenridge, Colorado. Her family vacationed there in the summertime and in the winter. And she just loved what coffee shops were like. And there weren't a lot of them in Oklahoma that were like this, where it was like cute and comfortable and, kind of like the whole thing that, Starbucks introduced and what you might see on Friends. But there was Starbucks in Oklahoma in the early 2000s, but there wasn't a lot of independent shops. And so, I think that one in Breckenridge was really what inspired her. Just a place that's so comfortable that she could hardly stand it, I think.
Actually, I don't want to get into that. It's unrelated. My daughter works for you. And one reason she works for you is she's like, Dad, what should I do? And I said, Tirza, you should go get a job at Hoboken. I said, because she graduated early. And I said, Tirza, you're going to be graduating early. And that means your friend group's going to change because you're leaving some friends behind. I said, but you really need new community. And I said, I don't know how Trey has done it, but he has a really good community of employees there. I said, so you should go ask for a job there. So I want to know, Trey, you and Mallory start the business. You struggle through the first year. You hire an employee. You learn, you fail, you learn, you fail. You probably fail more than you learn early on. But it's been 10, 12 years?
12 years just this week.
And what I want to know is how do you, because you have some strong moral core values, how do you pass those on to your employees or create the atmosphere there where employees get to thrive? And me as a conservative dad is encouraging my daughter to apply there. How do you do that?
Well, I think the Lord has blessed it immensely. And I think that God has put the people in our path in Guthrie, homeschool kids from good Christian homes with dads like you that have raised them in the truth and have a high standard for the sort of environment that they're going to be in. If they're going to be a young teenager working, you can't just go work anywhere. Like we're going to have a standard. I think we stumbled into hiring homeschool kids because there seemed to be a good amount of them. Have you heard that Edmond, Oklahoma has one of the highest percentages of homeschool, per capita homeschool children in the nation?
I did not know that.
I've heard that. I can't say it for sure.
That's cool.
But it's up. I bet you it's in the top 5. So
I'm going to ask ChatGPT later.
Yeah. So I think that there were a lot of them, and public school kids, their school schedule didn't allow for them to work our shifts. Like I couldn't make a high school schedule work, and the homeschool kids were available, and we found that they were great employees. They were hardworking and honest and diligent and kind, respectful. A lot of things that you just don't get from oftentimes from a public school kid, even if they're a Christian, come from a Christian home. So that we just, all of a sudden when we noticed that, I started looking for those homeschool kids, and there was a real turning point, I think, in our employee culture around 2020, and we hired a guy, Landon Hurlbutt. Shout out Landon if you ever listen to this. But Landon had asked about a job, and I told him I didn't have anything. He was working at Community Church in Guthrie, I believe. He's leading some worship and doing some other things on staff, and he had moved on from that and was just in a season where I think he was wanting to, I don't know. I don't know what he was wanting besides a job. But I told him I didn't have anything at the time. But I said, but I'll keep you in mind because things change quickly.
Sure.
So I don't remember, maybe 6 months go by and I'm like, hey, you still want a job? Yes. Landon, is just full of the Holy Spirit. And he would pray in the morning before shifts would start. And so when we started the company, we were not an overtly Christian coffee shop. I kind of wanted to stay away from that because it felt a little overdone, like coffee shops and churches. And it seemed like a real sweet spot for Christians to because of the community aspect of it. Sure. It's it was they go well together. I didn't want to kind of come out guns a-blazing, we're another one of those Christian coffee shops. So I kind of kept that close for a while. But 2020 changed a lot of things for a lot of people. And there was definitely some unveiling in my life, some sin that I had to work through, failed leadership at home. And when I realized some of those shortcomings and some of these areas of sin that I had let creep into my life, and confess that, and then realize that God has blessed this business immensely, and that we need to be a Christian coffee company. Yeah. We needed that. And Landon at the same time came on. He's praying before shifts start. He's like, hey, can I schedule a worship night? I'm thinking he's going to bring like 10 of his friends, and they're going to acoustic guitar and sing some songs and pray, maybe read a little scripture. The first one they had, it was like shoulder to shoulder, 100 people in the room, praising for over maybe close to 2 hours. Stories about healing. And I was like, what? So when that happened, I was like, this is the way. God has without a doubt, set this building aside for his glory, for this business to be in that, to be a part of that outflow. And I just kind of went all in on that. And so, when it came moving forward from that time on, when it came to hiring people, it was like those people became drawn to it even more, and I could spot them. It's like, you need to work here. And someone like your daughter shows up. It's like, yeah, of course. I know why you're here. Let's go. Mm-hmm. And so the Lord did that, and he's helped. He's just allowed us to be a vehicle for that, and allowed us to steward it. And it's an incredible blessing.
That's really cool. Well, it's an incredible blessing to us as well. Wanted to thank you guys for listening to the end. In closing, I just wanted to add that if this message resonates with you, if it aligns with your values, and something in it today triggered something, then you can also look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We are really trying to help people live more intentional lives, to kill the complacency with which they have subscribed to. I know there's many ways which I get sucked in all the time. So if this is beneficial, follow me there.